Hello, I'm Kim Patrick Kobza, and I would like to take a moment and introduce you to an app that David Bankson and I have been working on called Sparksfly. And Sparksfly is an exciting new personalization application which is used across mobile devices, both Android and Apple iOS devices. And the purpose of Sparksfly is to simplify how we use social networks. The problem with our current use of social networks is that social's broken. There's too much information, more than we can use. There are too many people in our networks at times. There are a lot of ads in our networks, and it makes it difficult to have communication with our families, close friends, and colleagues, at least in our social networks. Those communications become very costly and inefficient. And it also makes it difficult to discover meaningful content from people who are more distant to us, which is another reason that we use social networks. So it kind of takes the fun out of using social. Sparksfly enables users to customize their experience. And the way it does that is by enabling users to develop routines that reflect their interest. So the way that users organize their social experience begins with the things that are most important to them first. So, as an example of a routine, you might establish a routine for family that can pull from your Facebook, Twitter, LinkedIn, and Instagram feeds. It would just have your family members, and then it renders just your family's post and only your family post in one routine. So it simplifies that communication with family members, and 80% of our communication is with the few people close to us. So that's the most important, and it's most important that we make that communication very, very easy. Another way that Sparksfly can be used in a routine is through brand research. We all have retail brands that we really enjoy and that we feel affinity for. 6 out of 10 of us in the US study a company's reputation before we ever buy a product. So using our social networks as a research tool for brands and things that we would buy as consumers is very important to us. And Sparksfly enables us to target brands across, again, all of our social networks. So we can see feeds from what the brands post about themselves and their corporate sites, but also people that might use brands or products that we would consider using or buying. And so we also secure their intelligence at the same time. The result is that instead of spending hours of random research kind of vacuuming the web, we receive a very targeted set of feeds that's built on what we're trying to accomplish, which is research for our brands. It's not unlike search in that way. Another kind of fun routine is one, for instance, on weather, a personal interest, and perhaps travel. And there we can go out and select given weather sites or given travel sites, and we can get our feeds about, and all of the posts in our social networks about just those topics. And it's very, very cool. But you can pretty much let your imagination go. Sparksfly can be used for just about anything at an individual level. We could aggregate our finance sites. You can manage your weddings, which would include both the sites that you use to plan your wedding, perhaps your registry and the brands that you register for. And it also includes discussion, or can include discussion, from all your Facebook friends or selected Facebook friends who are involved in your wedding or who you want to share that with. So that's an example of a really innovative potential use of Sparksfly. You could use Sparksfly for career research, so that you could aggregate career sites and follow those and then you can have published content coming from your feeds for that. And fitness is an obvious example with the proliferation of fitness devices and the various social networks around that. For businesses, social's kind of broken too, in the sense that businesses spend a lot of money on advertising and social technologies, and they often will include now native feeds that interrupt your social feeds. So kind of the outcome for a business is that you have too much big data without enough meaning. The social awareness for a brand is often centralized in a marketing or a communication department, but everybody in an organization needs the tool of being familiar with or aware of social communication that's necessary to get their job done. So what Sparksfly does, and enables brands to give their workforce another tool to be socially aware for that type of social communication that's specific to the role of the individual employee. So it's not just for marketing, and probably not just for sales, but also to develop products and services. And the great thing is it's free. Examples of how it can be used in a business role would be, for instance, research on potential prospects and customers. It could also be used for professional research. In this case, I use it for network scientists and my social media professionals, some of the authors that I follow. It can be used for connections. So, in other words, we have many people in our networks over time, some of which relationships are dormant, but that may be relevant to us in the future or maybe even in the present, and we want to become current and aware of what those old relationships are doing, or people in those relationships are doing today, and it makes it easier for us to reinvigorate those if we want to, and to further communicate. And oftentimes they hold business opportunities, or they're the key to business opportunities as we go forward. But again, for business, you can kind of let your imagination go. You can use Sparksfly to help manage events. You can follow press and media that might be following your company. And you can stay connected with your peer networks, even though they're not necessarily your families or your close colleagues. You can keep track of the leaders within your industry. For me, it's CEOs and select colleagues, and I follow many of them across the industry, and I don't have to search my whole Twitter stream or my whole LinkedIn account or whatever. I can just get it in one stream. So there are many ways as both consumers and businesses that we can use a tool that simplifies our social experience, and that's what Sparksfly does. So try it out, download it. It's in Google Play and in Apple App Store, and share your Sparksfly solution with us.